I want to move along and talk about something else that will be happening in the coming days, which is the upcoming premiere of the very long-awaited new Netflix series by Prince Harry and Meghan, who are executive producing the series POLO, all about the sport polo. So they undeniably had huge commercial success with Harry and Meghan, the series they had before, and they around the same time, Harry's memoir Spare was also released. Do you think that, given that they've had some commercial challenges since then, do you think this show looks to be something that will help them win back Hollywood?
How interested are people in polo? I mean, I think that's the big question, isn't it? I mean, Richard and I, over the years, have seen quite a few polo matches, right?
Yes.
I still don't understand how this game works or is played. It's like a law unto itself. I think when you watch the trailer, which is it's beautifully produced, it's quite slick. I mean, I'm thinking Rivals on the moment on Disney is doing super well. Jilly Cooper, of course, did a best-selling book called Polo. There is the potential, actually, for it to do well. I just think the problem is that getting bums on seats in the wake of the Harry and Meghan docu-series, which was such compelling viewing because it was about them leaving, it was about their new lives. People wanted to tune in and watch that. I just don't think this is going to have the same mass appeal. I mean, when you compare it to the documentary that Harry did on the Invictus Games, which is arguably far more worthy a topic than polo, which is a bit racy and a little bit different. I mean, the viewing figures of that, they were okay. But I think the idea that anything's going to match that docuseries is probably pretty far-fetched. So let's wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, this is their problem, that people are interested in their royal lives, but they're not necessarily interested in other things that they produce. I mean, my understanding was, that the Invictus series was a disappointment in terms of viewing figures. And polo, I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, I go and I've seen countless polo matches, and I'm still don't really understand the rules.
He always used to send the ball in our direction, didn't he? Do you remember?
Yeah.
We'd be in the media pen, and suddenly this ball would come hurtling at great speed, very close towards us. And it's an exciting game, and it's got all of those sort of ingredients. It's sport, it's fast, it's pacey, lots of men in it. I mean, it might turn out to be a surprise hit. I'm just not too convinced.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of women, I mean, obviously women tend to be more into the royals than men, I'd say. And over the years, a lot of women have gone on to me about, men in white, tight white trousers. And so I can see that might be appealing. And as you say, the Jilly Cooper adaptation, that seems to have gone down well.
I think it probably would have had a better chance if he was in it, but as far as we're aware, he's not. He's exec producing, and that's quite a big risk, because you've obviously got Meghan doing her cookery show. She's going to be very central to that, and I still think there is that curiosity factor about both of them. But I think you want to see them. And Harry comes to life when he's on screen. He's actually he's pretty good at it. So it'll be interesting to see how his exec production debut goes.
And you've hit the nail on the head there. I think authenticity for members of the royal family can be a really hard note for them to hit, because they don't want to give away too much of themselves, but they also want to connect in a way with the public. And I think that's something that Harry and Meghan, the same as the others, have struggled with. But it does feel like if he's leaning into a passion area of his now, which is polo, and Meghan has this new cooking and lifestyle show coming out, as well as her brand, it seems that they are realising that strategy now of authenticity. Do you think that will help them overall with the public, win back favour? No, in a word. Not over here, I don't think so. I think they've got such a huge amount of work to do to win back the British public. The majority, clearly, there are people, particularly younger people. I always say the younger, darker skinned you are, the more likely you are to be sympathetic to them. But obviously there are all sorts of people who still remain sympathetic to them. But the majority do not. And I think it's because they felt that Harry and Meghan wanted all the trappings without the responsibilities that come with being working members of the royal family. Yeah. So I think they've got a problem. And of course the other thing about polo, I mean, there was a really interesting piece in the Sunday Times at the weekend about this, and it was contrasting some of their messages, particularly Harry's messages on the environment, with with polo, which is sort of quite a carbon-heavy sport, you know, transporting all those horses around everywhere, and the amount of money. It's an elitist sport. I think there are something like 250 clubs maybe in the US, but it's not it's not a sport that the majority of people either side of the pond follow closely.
And in fairness, though, you get shows like, this is completely unsponsored me mentioning it, but, you know, shows like, I think it's Drive to Survive is the Formula One, which is a similar, you know, argument can be made. That's a very expensive sport. But also, as we were talking about it, I was thinking about, you know, I've never had any real passion or interest in polo before now, but I'm also not interested in farming, and I love Clarkson's farm. So who knows? You know,
you never know. And I think it's also just worth making the point that Harry's always used polo, as William has, to raise money for charity. You know, when we used to go to these polo matches, they would raise millions of pounds for their charities. So, and I think that is also part of this. I don't think anyone has a problem with them doing Netflix. You know, one of the key reasons they left the royal family was to have financial independence as well as independence. And so we're expecting them to go and make money and be commercial in that respect. But I think we also expect it to have a philanthropic tie as well. I think that makes it more acceptable, for want of a better word. So I'll be interested to see how much charity there is in this, because as I say, polo's always been a very charitable thing for them. So we have to wait and see.
So we'll see. I think that's being released on December 10th. So we'll see how people react to it then, I guess.